So welcome to episode, I don't know what episode we on now. I got to keep track. But welcome to another episode of The Village where we tell stories about people in the community, man, doing amazing things, man. And we got a special guest here today. I mean, this dude right here, man. I mean, giant, great athlete in school, man. I've been watching him since after school. He's been doing great things, man, working with kids in the community, man, getting right with God. Became a married man, and is just living the right way, living righteously, you know what I'm saying, living true to himself, you know what I mean, and that's a special thing. So give it up for my man, TC, man, Troy.
Yeah. I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man. What's good, man?
What's going on, man?
Yeah, man, it's good to have you here. I'm glad you're here. I always like to start off with the genesis, man. I'm a music guy, so I always like to start off with the intro to the album, how the album would go, you know what I mean, the intro. So I know who you are. Like, I know you. I was with you every day at school.
Right.
But I don't know where you from. Like, I don't know, like, I think I know a little bit. Like, I know you from Evanston, right?
Right.
So talk
E-town.
a little. Yeah, okay. So talk a little bit about those origins, man, like the beginning of Troy. Just where you grew up in Cincinnati, man, where you come from.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Evanston. My parents, man, they had me when they was young, man. They was 19. They was babies themselves. You know what I mean? So coming out of Evanston, I done seen a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot of family members who were in the dope game. You know what I mean? So. People around me, my friends, parents, into the dope game and stuff. So, seen a lot of stuff growing up, man. A lot of stuff that I wasn't supposed to see, and, growing up in the hood, it's love there. It's a lot of great memories. It's a lot of great things that go on in those communities. But at the same time, man, it's like you're going to grow up with some type of trauma. You know what I mean? There's some type of experiences that you're gonna have growing up. I used to I had an uncle, man, his name Uncle Billy. He was a dope boy as well too, growing up. And I remember when I used to get suspended from schools and stuff, like I used to have to go sit on the block with him. You know what I'm saying, on Blair, and being on the block with my uncle, he was young then, man. He was like 21, 22. So he was like a kid himself. But I looked up to him, though, you know what I mean? Because, like, to me, he was everything. Just seeing the way that he was talking, to other guys on the block, seeing how he talked to the people who was wanting to be served by, you know what I mean? Like, I thought, for real, to me, I thought that was, like, it. I thought that was powerful, you know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, just being on the block with him, man, I seen a lot of things, that at the time I didn't know was uncommon to see. You know what I mean? When you growing up in an environment like that, anything that you see, you think that's common because you continuously just keep seeing it. You feel what I'm saying? So, when my uncle had passed away, man, he passed away a couple years later, man, to gun violence. And that kind of like, man, that messed with me, man. Like, I was confused by that, Even though I was a little boy, it still confused me. Like, how I go from seeing this man almost every day to not seeing him at all. You know what I mean? Like, that messed with me, on a mental level. You see what I'm saying? And I just remember, after that, my dad really, like, stopped bringing me around the hood. You know what I mean? Because it was a point in my dad's life because, my dad, he was a dope boy too back in the day. But, my dad came to terms with himself, like, he wanted to be a better man. And once he made that decision, man, he took me out the hood, man, when I was like 11 or 12. You know what I mean? To just to give me a better life. You know what I mean? And not wanting me to grow up how, he did and how my uncle, you know what I'm saying? Like, so my dad really wanted to protect me from the hood things that was going on. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that too from my dad, man, because I was wild, bro. I was wild, man. I used to get suspended from school a lot, fights, all that stuff, getting kicked out of school. So I always go back to when my dad took me out of that environment, it changed my mindset as well too. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's why when we was at Hughes, you know, I was a clown, but I ain't really getting into a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? Because of how my dad was moving and operating, you know what I'm saying, taking me out of those situations. You know what I mean? And I learned a lot from that, you know? So I definitely, you know, want to definitely give my dad that credit for real. Yeah.
What's up, man? Shout out to Pops, man.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, man, because, you know, you definitely had, you know, as kids, you know, we don't really, or teenagers, we don't really have the words to articulate, you know, what we may feel inside or what we may see about another person. But that's something like you always kind of carried at school. Like, even though you was crazy, we were teenagers, you know what I mean? Right. But like you always had like I don't know, like you were kind of grounded. You know what I mean? You always had this, you carried yourself in a different way. It was like a different aura. Like, and rather than somebody else that was kind of like getting into stuff and kind of chaotic, you know, you got into stuff, but but it wasn't like, you know what I mean? It wasn't nothing crazy. And you can just tell that you come from like good stock. You know what I mean? So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, nah, for sure. Nah, you always carried yourself in a different light. You know what I mean? So I definitely respected that. So, I mean, you know, one of the reasons why you kind of stayed out of trouble, I mean, you always had an outlet. You know what I mean? You always played sports. You played, what was it, baseball, football, basketball.
Baseball.
Yeah, you did it all, man. You did it all, man. So, I mean, just talk about how, you know, just your experience with sports, man, and how that was just like a good outlet for you, man, in high school, man. And,
I've been playing sports since I was 4 years old, man.
Okay.
I've been playing football, basketball, and baseball since 4 all the way up to high school. You know, man, that kept me out of a lot of trouble as well too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was always busy.
Yeah.
You know, my dad always told me, like, you know, you was bad when you was growing up, so I had to put you in sports to try to get a lot of that energy out of you. You know what I'm saying?
That's what most dads want to do.
Yeah. It just keep you busy. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's why that's the reason why I gained so much love from sports, man. You know, and also teach you a lot. You know, you learn life lessons in sports.
Of course.
You get to you know, meet guys that become lifetime friends. You know what I mean? I got guys that I've been friends with since we were 5 years old, man, that I still talk to every now and then, man. You know, and that brotherhood. You know what I mean? So you know, sports played a huge role in my life. You know, it was a time in my life where I looked at myself as just an athlete. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. You know what I mean?
Get into that.
Yeah, right. So, because, you know, I thought that sports is just what I'm supposed to do. I thought sports was just my life completely. You know what I mean? And it was fun, man. It was fun, man. Especially, you know, at Hughes, back in the day at Hughes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Big Red days.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know? So
absolutely.
Yeah, man. I love sports, man.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that's a perfect segue. I'm glad you said that, you know, because, you know, as we become, you know, we get ready to go into adulthood, you know, we leave in high school, we leave in that world, you know, and sports may stop or school may stop with some neighborhood friends. Some of us go to college, some of us don't. But we struggle with finding identity. You know what I mean? And
sure.
As men, just trying to figure out, like, man, who are we? What am I this? Am I going to be a provider? Am I going to be a leader? Am I going to be this? I mean, this is all I know.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And some people never find that, and then they get lost in, you know, this darkness sometimes.
Yeah.
So before we get deeper into, like, you know, showing how you became a leader, talk about how you kind of found your identity after high school, and what was that process like finding your voice?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can give you a perfect example. You know, when I was in high school, playing football, basketball, and baseball, I think my sophomore year was my first year of playing high school baseball, and I got my first D1 offer after my sophomore year. And, of course, football, I had a lot of offers as well, too, you know. But the thing that I didn't take serious was my grades, you know what I mean, until my senior year. But when I got my grades up, I was still getting in trouble a lot, you know what I mean, just on and off the court, football field, you know, baseball field, getting into it with my coaches, you know, just that arrogance, you know. And when it was time for the college coaches to have conversations with my high school coaches, you know, they told the truth. They was real with them. Like, you know, Troy got a bad attitude. He don't like to listen. He this, he that. You know what I mean? And at the time, I thought it was unfair. But as I got older and became a coach myself, one thing you never want to be is untrustworthy when it comes to having conversations with colleges when it comes to your athletes. You know what I mean? So, those things happen, man. I lost majority of all my scholarships, honestly. So I still went to college. I went to the University of Toledo. And funny thing is, that was one of the schools that offered me in baseball, But, when I got up there, man, I was devastated that I wasn't playing baseball anymore. You know what I mean? And once I got up there, I even reached out to the coach. He was like, "You here?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm here, man." Woo, woo. He said, "Man, come into my office. Let's have a conversation." So I had a conversation with him. It really ain't lead to nowhere. Honestly, I felt like, he didn't need me anymore because he gave my scholarship to somebody else, So that was painful, man. That was really painful, man. And I kind of went into like a little dark moment there, because all I knew was sports. I didn't know anything else. I didn't know to, dive in deep into academics. Academics was second when it comes to a powerhouse athlete. You know what I mean? Just being real, and when that happened, man, it forced me to really start to think more about myself and more about my life outside of sports, and that was a hard transition to get into, but I was able to really just, dig within myself and understand, like, Troy, even though sports is over with, your life is not over with. You can still be successful. You can still do the things that you love to do with sports, even if you're not playing sports, And that led me into, this ministry that I was in called Fellowship of Christian Athletes, when I was ministering to athletes around the city and around the state of Ohio, and a lot of these athletes were telling me, I'm a football player, I'm a hooper, I'm a baseball player. That's all I do. You know what I mean? So I'll throw like a little hook question out there. I'll say, okay, that's cool, but what else you like? And it'd be a pause. I mean, that's all I like. I say, well, what if it don't pan out your way? What if you don't go to the league? You know what I'm saying? What if you tear your ACL in 2 years in a row and now you can't play at all? Then what? You know what I mean? So my whole objection was to just try to help them understand that your life is more than just being an athlete. You're more than just an athlete. You know what I mean? And, that's one thing that I really want to just put my stamp on when it comes to athletes that I meet, all the time, just letting them know, like, man, you could do so much more than just playing basketball. Your purpose, God has not put you on this purpose just to shoot a basketball. You know what I mean? And, just trying to help them understand that their life and their purpose is more than just training every single day, So
That's dope. That's beautiful, man. Do you feel like as though just about having that experience that, like, you spoke on just like how that was like painful, do you see that like by just going back and working with these young boys and young people, which I want to get into what you do specifically and what you've done,
right.
Do you feel that as though like that's like helped you like heal your own inner child, so to speak?
Oh, for sure, man, because, I dealt with a lot of athletes who were like me, you know what I mean, who had that arrogance of, man, I ain't got to do all this. I'm about to go to the league. I ain't about to do all that. I'm going D1. You know what I mean? So definitely, man, it helped me to look within myself, because there were times where I had to go back 5 to 6 years, and really deal with things that I've done and and the things that I've thought along the way as well too, and just correct those wrongs, man, when it comes to coaching or dealing with a lot of these athletes. So yeah, definitely.
That's dope. I feel like that's what makes a great coach.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody who's been there. And it's important, man. And man, everybody needs a coach too. You know what I mean? Like that's such a important thing to have. Like Kobe needed a coach. Exactly. Kobe spoke on, like, I think it's his book, Mamba Mentality, where he was just talking about how, like, he was a good player, but when he met Phil Jackson, he got to like helping him go within.
Yeah.
You know, and becoming a better just human being, and that made him a better player.
That made him Kobe.
That made him Kobe, right? Yeah, that made that breeded the Mamba mentality.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man. So I want to dive deeper into that, like, you know, because I always observe, man. You know, some far away, I seen that you were coaching, you were doing a little coaching, maybe even a little teaching over at Hughes, right?
Yeah.
So talk about what you know, just kind of life after sports and getting into coaching, and what have you been up to in that world?
Yeah. So even before that, I got to go back to Roberts Academy. I was a paraprofessional over there. Okay. Yeah. And I remember the ISS teacher, man. He asked me. He was like, "Man, you ever thought about coaching or anything like that?" I was like, "Nah, man. Like, I ain't." You know what I mean? But he told me that the 7th and 8th grade boys basketball position was open, and man, I prayed about it. You know, then I was like, you know, I'm gonna just do it, man. You know, because it'd be fun, and I already know these kids because I teach them every day. So I just felt like it'd just be a fun thing to do. You know, so I did that for 2 years before I went over to Hughes with Coach Wine. You know, yeah. So he brought me along over there, man. Because you know that's one of my favorite coaches, bro.
Oh, he dope, man.
That's one of my favorite coaches, man. You know, he brought. I'll say this, and then I'll go back to what we were saying. Yeah. You know, Coach Wine, man, he brought that dog out of me that I never thought I had. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Coach Wine is the coach who taught me what it is to be disciplined and what it is to work hard as well, too, as a man.
Shout out to Coach Wine.
Shout out to Coach Wine. Yeah. You know what I mean? I love Coach Wine, man. He pushed me as a player when I played for him. I couldn't stand Coach Wine when I played for him, man. Like, why are you always on me, bro? Yeah. You know what I mean? But at the time, I didn't know that it was just out of love, and he wanted the best for me. You know what I mean? And even as a coach as well, too, he pushed me a lot, you know? So, but yeah, so I went over to Hughes. I was a paraprofessional for 1 year, and then I became one of the gym teachers as well, too. Yeah. So I was over there for a couple of years doing that, teaching, and also coaching basketball as well, too. And I also became the head baseball coach.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that like?
Yeah, it was good. It was good, man. You know, in these days, a lot of young men, a lot of young black men, they don't really fall into baseball that much.
Wish they would.
You know, and I wish they would, too, because that's our sport. Yeah. That has always been our sport. Yeah. You know, but it's trendy for basketball now. Everybody want to hoop. You know what I'm saying?
It looks cool.
Right. Or everybody want to play football, wide receiver or DB. You know what I mean? Don't nobody want to play in the outfield. Don't nobody want to play second base and turn 2. You know what I'm saying? They don't, you know what I mean? So it was challenging, man. It was challenging, man, because I had a lot of guys who didn't play baseball, or they had a little bit of experience playing baseball. You know, so I'll say that part of the journey taught me patience. You know what I mean? Because I had to have patience in order to help these young men not only learn how to play baseball, but to understand what baseball is. You know what I mean? Baseball is not just you go out there and you just play. You know what I'm saying? This is a thinking game. You know, you got to think 1 or 2 outs before it even happened. You know what I mean? And you know, that was like the challenging thing for me when it comes to coaching baseball, man.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing that you got to go back to the old school and then teach something that you love.
Right.
You know what I mean, I know that did wonders for your spirit, man.
Man, it did.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So, you know, I'm seeing you recently. I know there's a lot more, but I want to cover some other stuff about you too.
Okay.
So I want to know, like, what was the transition, man? Because I seen you recently just at the community event, you know what I mean? And I see you with an organization. And so you spent time, you know, you grew up, man, and, you know, in Evanston, you know, you had some time playing sports. You discovered some stuff about yourself in college, and you coached a little bit. You know, now it seems as though that you're kind of spreading your reach. You know, you're doing a little bit more, and it seems as though it's on the spiritual level too. Because one thing I've been watching you from afar is that, you know, you're getting right with God. You know, you're getting right with your spirit, which is a beautiful thing, and I love that. So just talk a little bit about just, you can share a little bit about your spiritual path and even going into, because I want you to tell it. Is it called Grow?
Grow.
Yeah.
God is called Grow. It's acronym for God Restoring Order.
Talk about it, man.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm listening.
Yeah. So
that's what I want to get into.
So it's an organization here in Cincinnati. Well, what we do is, man, we give therapeutic services to young black men in the city of Cincinnati from the ages of 5 through 21. Because a lot of our kids, man, they go through trauma, man. And they don't know how to cope with these things that they deal with. A lot of the young men don't have any guidance, any light. They don't have father figures in their lives, man. And that's what we're here for. We're here to mentor these young men and help them, and lead them into the right path that they should go. You know what I mean? And also with that, just give them therapeutic services as well too. So now, not only are we just talking to them about life, we giving them tools. How to manage your emotions. A lot of these young men don't know how to manage their emotions. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we give them some type of tools, man, that they can, just have in their back pocket, man. Whenever they're feeling peer pressure. If one of their guys is telling them like, hey, let's go here, let's go steal this, let's go smoke here. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You know what I mean? And no, I can't do that. You know what I mean? I talked to Coach Troy, you know what I'm saying? He told me this, he told me that, So, that's what we really about for real, man. Just providing therapeutic services to these young men, and just walking with them every single day of their lives, man.
That's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah, for sure, man. I love that you do that. I want to dive deeper on that. So,
okay.
What's that process like? Do you all go into schools? Do you do outreach?
Yeah, we go into schools. We do outreach as well too. As far as the schools, we create these relationships with the principals, with the teachers, the resource coordinators of the schools, the counselors of the schools as well too. And we just collaborate with them and team up with them and come up with a treatment plan with the young men. And with that, we start to try to tackle, whatever it is that he's dealing with. If he's diagnosed with anything, ADHD, adjustment disorders, and what can we do to help this young man elevate his life in any way necessary. So that's what we do. We even go to the houses as well too. We sit in with the moms. We talk to the moms. It's this thing called IHBT services, intensive home-based treatment. So now the mothers are able to have the same treatment as the young men. So now we have licensed therapists that are black women that talks to the mothers as well too, and help them with whatever it is that they got going on. You know what I mean? So as the mom is getting services, we coming right behind and giving the services to the young men as well too. Then we'll do like a group session as well too with the moms and the sons, and just trying to help them any type of way. And with that as well too, we plug in the spiritual side. So now I'm having conversations with them about God. We praying. I'm praying with the young man. I'm praying with the mother. We praying together as a whole. Sometimes I take my guys to church with me. And sometimes we do Bible studies. We sit down, we talk about the God. We talk about God, we talk about the Bible, you know what I mean? And whatever it is that the Holy Spirit moves within me to do or to talk about with the young man. So yeah, that's what we do, man.
That's fire, man. That's beautiful, bro. That's beautiful, man. I gotta ask, because and I even asked a similar question at the Dr. Umar joint, and I gotta ask you, man. For somebody who's doing that type of work, that's deep work, and I know from just speaking to another man, I know that that internal work ain't easy. You know what I mean? Not. And then not only that, you helping somebody else do that internal work. Right. So how are you, man? You talk about restoring others, man. Just what are some things you do to restore yourself, man? Because you're in service and you're giving, a deep part of yourself, man. And so how are you finding balance and all that?
Man, I'll say this: about 2 months ago, I found myself working out a lot, and with me working out, brother, it has it has helped me tremendously, mentally, emotionally. You know what I mean? Like all the way, man. So I definitely say a lot of the workouts, man. It's starting to get warm outside. What I usually love to do every morning, I go on walks every morning, man. We have this park behind where we stay, and at this park, it's a bench right next to some trees and a little bird feeder as well too. And I love birds, man. So sometimes I sit on that bench.
We're talking about birds.
I know. That's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah. I'm listening. That's what's up. I'm listening, man.
Yeah, so sometimes I sit there, man, I just watch the birds, listen to them, man, and I talk to God, you know, and that gives me a lot of peace, man, you know. And also my wife, man, we like to go on walks together, you know, and you know, just walking with her and just having conversations with her, man, that really fills me up as well too, man, you know. So
what's up, man? Let's
a lot of outdoors.
Yeah, man. We could talk a little bit about that, man. You know, man, I was on Facebook, man, some years ago, and I just seen this big wedding, man. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, it was crazy. It was dope, man. And you know, you kind of a private dude, so I didn't know what was going on, man. Just talk about marriage, man. What's that like these days? You know, I'm not a married man. You know what I mean? I'm very much isolated.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, talk a little bit about marriage, man. What's that's been like as a young married man, and being of service, and just you know what's all that like, man?
Yeah. Speaking of when you said private, you know, no one knew that we were dating until I popped the question.
Shout out to y'all.
Yeah, you know, we kept it on the low, you know, for reasons, you know, just want to just focus on each other. You know what I mean? Don't want to let everybody in our business or anything like that.
That's a gem, man.
You know what I mean? So, but I enjoy marriage, man. You know, marriage has always been a desire for me. You know what I mean? I knew one day that, you know, I was going to get married. You know what I mean? You know, my parents, you know, they've been married for over 20-something years. So seeing that in the house, you know, and seeing the love that they have for one another and the love that they always shown each other too, you know, and I got a lot of uncles, man, they all married as well too. So, you know, I feel like it was expected. It was a criteria in the family, you know what I mean? And I wanted to be a part of that, you know, and my wife, man, I met her a couple years back. Like I was telling you, man, at one of my boys' barbecue, man. You know what I mean? It's like a little 90s type, you know, playing spades, you know what I'm saying? And, man, honestly, after that day, we went on a date, I think, like that next week. And we've been together ever since.
That's fire, man.
Ever since, man. Ever since.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you feel as though, like, you know, being out, imagine all the work that you do right now, you know, and you out doing this work, you out being of service and you helping people in the community and you doing things. Imagine that without her, you know what I mean? Do you feel as though like that gives you like another level of strength?
Of course, of course, because I talk to my wife when it comes to the services that I do. You know what I mean? My purpose is she's a part of my purpose. You know what I mean? So,
elaborate on that.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, you know, she is everything that I do. She's a reflection of it. You know what I mean? Everything that she does, I'm a reflection of it as well too. You know what I mean? And she's like my safety net. She prays for me. She prays over me. You know what I mean? My wife may see some things that I won't even see that my eye will miss. You know what I mean? And she's there to tell me like, hey, I just want to let you know that person, you know what I mean? Yeah. She's there as my protector as well too, you know, and she pours into me as well too, you know, and also too, my wife keeps me humble. She keeps me humble. Yeah. So if I'm tripping,
need that.
Yeah. So if I'm tripping, she'll tell me. Yeah. You know, and of course at the time I probably wouldn't like it, but it checks me. And then that's when God comes in and convicts my heart even more and confirm to me everything that she was saying. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I really love a lot about my marriage with my wife. You know what I mean? She don't bite her tongue. She don't hold her tongue for nothing. You know what I mean? She tells it like it is, and it helps me. You know, and I feel like ever since I got married, man, it has helped me become a better man as well too. because there's things that I don't see about myself that she sees. You know what I mean? And it helps me to change the things that I need to change to become a better man for God. You know what I mean? And that's some of the benefits of being married, bro.
That's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, bro. That's
Sure.
awesome, man. What would you say, like, seems like, we're always a work in progress, man, and you have some things in place, seems like you got a nice flow with life right now. What do you want to build, man? What do you want to create here, and what do you see, what should I say, what gaps do you think need to be filled here in the city and in the community, and what do you see that's missing, that you would like to pour more into in the community, man? Now that you kind of like, because it's kind of easier to help and support when you got your stuff laid out. You know what I mean? You chilling, you got your wife. You know what I mean? You kind of got a vision. So with this clarity, you know what I mean? What gaps do you see that need to be filled in the city?
Man, I think that I think we need to continue to just create more resources for these young men. You know, they have too much time on their hands, man. You know, and if it's, what we always go to is sports. You know what I mean? If he bored, if he got too much time, throw him in sports. A lot of kids don't like sports. You know, I know some kids that like to play chess. You know, I know some kids that like to swim. You know, I know some kids that like to just read books. You know what I mean? I know some kids that just love to draw, and I think that we have so many resources in here as far as sports, but not a lot of resources for other things outside of just sports. You know what I mean? And like, it goes back to the whole athlete thing. Like, these kids are not just athletes. A lot of these kids are astronauts, scientists, authors, poets. You know what I mean? They just don't know how to tap into it because we have not tapped into that ourselves within our own communities. All we know is football, basketball. You know what I mean? And that's it, in the streets. And that's all. You know what I mean? A lot of these kids are super smart, man. They just don't have the resources to prove it. You know what I mean? So I definitely would say that for sure. Just more resources out there other than just sports.
What do you like, if you could put like something in a suggestion box for something like that to come together, what would you suggest? Like, because there's so many people, man. There's like, I didn't know you did what you did until I came to that event.
Right.
You know? So what do you recommend, man, for more people in the city to come together and start sharing these resources? Like, what do you recommend that needs to happen there?
A lot more conversations. Yeah. You know what I mean? I feel like, I'll say this about our people, man. We love to gatekeep. We love to gatekeep.
Facts. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what's hindering us with doing the things that we all should be doing within the communities. I think if we just have more conversations about what it is that we can do, I think that would help a lot. Yeah.
I like that, man. And ask you a few more questions.
Go ahead.
What would you consider since you've been in this field, what would you consider your biggest breakthrough moment with a young person or just in the community period? It could be a breakthrough moment with a young kid where you were like, man, I really got through him, or even just in yourself. What would you consider like, man, is like, because some days you can feel like you're getting beat up. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, what are some of those moments that keep you going, man? Like, I want to know just what that's like.
I think some moments that keeps me going is when I'm having a hard conversation with a young man, and I just I let him go his way, and then I get a phone call the next day. You know what I mean? Because after having those hard conversations, sometimes you never know what their thoughts are, if they want to continue to keep seeing you or if they just want to just give up because they don't want to hear the hard conversations. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I definitely would say, one of those situations has really, been like a pivotal point for me, man. Just seeing them coming back for more. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even with the hard conversations that we have, and me holding them accountable and teaching them about discipline and about hard work, as I was taught as well too, from like a Coach Wyant. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll definitely say that for sure.
That's dope, man. Yeah. Well, what would you tell right now, man, if you got Troy from high school sitting right here in front of you? You know what I mean?
We'll probably be sitting here for 3 days.
Yeah, right. What would you say to him, man? What would you say to you? What would you say to your younger self right now?
Can I look at the camera when I say that?
Say it.
Don't give up, man. Even when things get hard, you're going to have those tough moments, those tough times, those trials and tribulations, but they do not define you. You're not defined by your mistakes. You're not defined by what others say about you at all. Who you are, that you feel within yourself, continue to just believe in that for yourself, man. Stay disciplined. Continue to keep working hard. Even when you don't see the results right now, continue to work hard. Because at some point in life, at some point in time, you're going to see all those results come to fruition, man. So just keep going. Don't give up for nothing, no matter what. I don't care if it's family or friends, want to cut you off, whatever. Just don't give up. Just keep going. And that's it.
I love that, man. Anything else you want to share before we get out of here?
No, man. I think that's it, brother. I think that's it, man. I just want to appreciate you for sure, man.
For sure, man. Yeah, man. It's dope, man. Thank you for coming out, man. Like, it was just, I think you were a grade above me, man. So it was always like, big bro vibes. You know what I mean? So I just always appreciated you, man, and how you moved. It's something that I never forget this, man. I'll share this and then we'll get up out of here.
Okay.
We were in practice one day, basketball practice. And I was dog tired. I was never in shape like y'all. Y'all cats could take y'all shirt off. Y'all all cut up. You know what I mean? I remember, Coach Wine threw me the basketball. And everybody's like, oh, Brandon about to shoot. I wasn't no good, So Brandon about to shoot. And then you was like, nah, man, Brandon can shoot free throws. Yeah. I remember you saying that. And I was just like, all right. Yeah. And I missed it. And we ran again. We ran again. And then Coach Wyatt gave me the ball. He was like, nah, Brandon got it this time. He got it. And I knocked it down and y'all clapped and practice was over, man. But hey, man, I don't know what confidence you had in me at that time, but it was little stuff like that. Nobody else said it, man. But I remember that to this day. You know what I'm saying? So it's little stuff like that, man, that I'm pretty sure that doesn't go unnoticed. You know what I mean? With the kids you work with, man, because you got one of those voices. You know what I mean? You got one of those powerful voices, man. And I'm happy, and it brings joy to my heart that somebody like you is doing the work. You know what I mean, out here, man. So we got to collaborate, man. We got to build more. And, this is just the beginning, man. I just wanted you to come here, man, so we can just sit down and just see what each other been up to, man, right. and connect. You know what I mean? So that was important. So I appreciate you, man. For sure.
I appreciate you for even sharing that, man.
Nah, for sure, dog.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, I missed that free throw, man. Like, had us running again, man. It's all good. But it's all good.
Yeah. You made the second one.
Made the second one, yeah. So, we was good, man. But yeah, man, I appreciate that, man, for sure. I never forget stuff like that. Who knows? You could have been on my hit list, man. I could have been out here with a sniper.
Real. Facts, though.
Kids crazy, man.
They crazy nowadays,
crazy, man.
Bro.
You know what I mean? So you never know, man. Never know what you say to people, man. And that meant a lot. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that, man.
For sure, dog. For sure, man.
I think I got that heart from my mama, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My mama always been like a real loving, caring person. Yeah. And she taught me that as well, too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to my mama, man.
Yeah, shout out to moms, man. Yeah, for sure. Nothing like a mom's love, man. For sure.
Real.
But yeah, man, we here with another episode of The Village, man, where we tell stories about people in our community, man, doing amazing things. You heard it from TC. You heard about, finding identity, man, working with God and instilling God in young people.
Sure.
And, and just helping people get on the right path, man. And it all comes from the genesis, the origins, man, just
Facts.
The wisdom he got from his pops, man, and stuff like that, man. That's a beautiful thing. And also people that were on his path, man, like his coach and these different things, man. These are the people that, that we need and that we needed, and we were becoming those people, you know, and that's a beautiful thing to see, man. So shout out to your wife, you know, and man, shout out to all the work you're doing, brother. Yeah, man, and that's another episode of The Village, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Appreciate
Appreciate you,
you, bro.
dog. Yeah, man.